how long until I push mute? Just find it first?
Yeah, just find it first. There's different, obviously different music in each game and each lobby.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was the easier of the easier questions. Anything? Yes?
I'll bring Guy up now.
Any comments on the music, judges?
Oh, you like?
Music? Not good. You got it? All right. They're it. All right. Good luck.
Just with your best shot.
Questions about other aspects of this. First of all, the playing in harmony, awesome tagline should have been. That's
okay.
It's a great positioning, and
I wrote that.
And it's a great problem to solve. And for me, this is more obvious to others. But are you intending to be a platform for a third party to develop? Is it a destination? You talked about developers on roads. Are those your developers or third parties?
It's a wonderful question, and the truth is, when we started the company, we wanted to make a gaming destination for everyone. Now, in the course of doing that, we realized there were some serious technology problems in making that happen. So as we started working to solve those, we also realized that we're very good at making cross-platform technology. So although we've made the initial content for mytopia, that's something we're going to outsource, so to speak, to other developers in the very near future. So we see ourselves in charge of, one, the community functionality that binds the games together, and the core technology that allows the developers who leverage rugs to deploy their content across the web and eventually beyond.
I think when you refer to them as your developers, I think that was the confusing part. If what you're saying is that anybody developing on your platform is develop once, publish everywhere, play anywhere, that's what you're saying. And you're going to handle all the updating on whatever platform changes occur. And if we presume that that works, I think this is terrific.
But you should.
Well, we've looked at a few things over time. Not everything works as advertised, but I mean, the problem you're solving is a big one. Certainly, it's not a value add for a developer to do it 15 times and then stay up and keep it updated and then do it for a walled garden. So if what you're saying is that there's no more walled gardens for game developers, you can play across. When you showed us mytopia, I wasn't sure if that was where you had to go to play these games. But effectively, if you're saying a Facebook user playing on Facebook can play with a MySpace user seamlessly, no matter what changes in the background, that's extremely fine.
And there's another way to look at it. If a framework can handle real-time live multiplayer games, it can likely handle any form of rich media. So as we've started engaging with various media and infrastructure companies, we've been thinking together with them about ways to leverage the assets of this platform beyond just mytopia.
I think that the other place we've seen, another place we've seen this kind of a problem getting solved is in the mobile world, and a couple of folks have come up with kind of higher level GL kind of approaches that allow you to port across multiple handsets and multiple carriers, but they tend to get margin squeezed. I mean, at least I haven't seen that in the mobile world a revenue model that works in a lasting way. Any thoughts about that?
Well, I'm not sure if it's directly about your point, but I mean, there's kind of two different things that I see being bridged here. One is the distribution mechanism and saying that you can write once and deploy in many different places. The other, and I'm not sure if this is actually something that you're doing or not, but you often hear people talk about building a community and owning a community, which brings around all these problems of how do you federate communities when you have one that's built on one side and one that's built on the other. And there have been attempts, Open Social and OpenID and things like this to try and allow people to build communities that are pooled groups of different players who are all sharing the same community. But I'm a little bit uncertain. Are you providing a solution which will bridge different separate communities which don't actually have integration already offered through some particular API, or is it just that you've chosen one particular group of federated communities to deploy?
Very long question.
Well, right now the platform is something that we used internally, and mytopia was almost a sort of proving ground for us to make sure, people use the concept of cross-platform development very loosely. Everybody does some form of cross-platform development, but there's a very big difference between doing that and actually being able to handle it in a scalable way, managing the various platforms on the web, and then even looking beyond the web. I know some of the stuff that you've been doing in Snap and some some of our discussions with Nokia is very, very interesting. That's primarily focused on the J2ME space, and it becomes a little bit more challenging when you look at the very fragmented smartphone world that's opening up today with Android and iPhone and Windows Mobile and BlackBerry and Symbian and Linux, and the list goes on and on and on and on. Right now, we think that the platform we've put together, along with the rise of platforms and social networks and widgets, really opens up opportunities to completely change the paradigm of software distribution. We always think of software distribution in the classic mindset on the web and on the mobile, it's the carriers. I think all of this is going to change in the coming years. And so our platform is really focused on being the infrastructure for that. And mytopia is a great demonstration of the power of the platform, and also gives a lot of opportunities to the developers who will work with us on that.
Yes, I think it's just important to clarify that we do have two core assets. One being the consumer-facing property, which is mytopia. It's a gaming world. Today, it's populated by content we've created. In the future, it will be populated by a variety of content. On the back end, so to speak, we have the framework rugs that we built that is so far kind of being used for our purposes, but again, in the future will open up.
So, I mean, you have two audiences here, right? You have the developers and you have the end consumers. So for the developer, is the hook ease of development or is the hook distribution? And do you envision the developer thinking that, well, because of this multi-platform ability, I can build kinds of games that I couldn't have built before? Or do you see them thinking that, well, this gives me my first million users easily? And from the consumer's perspective, if I find a chess game on High Five, do I care that people on Facebook can also play it? Is that what's going to make me choose that game to play, or will I choose the one with the shiniest black squares?
That's a fantastic question. So I think there's a few ways of thinking about it. The first one is some of your friends may be on High Five. Many of your friends may not be on High Five. Not necessarily on other social networks, but they may use Yahoo's Yahoo Games. They may use a variety of Apple dashboard widgets. They might not be social networking participants. Now, if you look beyond the web, it becomes even more obvious that not only are many of your friends on other platforms, but you sometimes are on other platforms. So being able to bridge this challenge of convergence is very, very critical. After all, people want to access their rich media anytime, anywhere. They really don't care where they are, and they really don't care which system they connect from. So we're really focused on making sure that they can get at those games or other rich media applications from any location.
What about the developers?
Well, in terms of developers, so right now, mytopia has been out for a month and a half. We have over 200,000 users. We're growing at about 4% a day. So we think that within a very short amount of time, we will have quite a wide distribution to offer developers, in addition to giving them the opportunity to use languages that they know, that they're comfortable with, but suddenly be able to reach a variety of platforms that they wouldn't normally have the bandwidth to develop for.
So two very quick questions. Really simplify the last question, which is how do you make money?
Nobody asks.
So
Sure. So again, with the business model, there are two facets here. One is mytopia, the consumer-facing property, where we utilize the four traditional rivers of revenue. So online advertising, it's free to play with targeted ads, sponsorship model, so kind of white label or brand takeover in certain parts of the game, microtransactions that make a lot of sense in a virtual world like this, where we have currencies and shops and trading and in-game items. And the fourth one is premium subscriptions, kind of to remove advertising and to unlock premium content similar to a POGO model.
So those all sound like they're centered around the destination model.
yeah,
Those
exactly.
are all around mytopia.
Exactly. So those are around the consumer-facing mytopia site. Now, around the platform, there are two models. One is a revenue share with developers. The second one is a licensing model. But the really interesting part for us is in the last few months, as we've been talking to a number of media and infrastructure companies, we realized that the core assets of the technology is very, very relevant to them in a variety of ways. So we've been thinking with them on how to leverage this, either in terms of tapping into distribution or integrating it into parts of their technology and efforts.
And with that, well done. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
That's all, guys.